I had a fairly extensive career in retail banking in the UK. I guess the odd thing about it was I worked mainly for institutions that were either from the US or funded by US banks. So I started in retail banking and then specialized in the mortgage business. One of the companies I worked for in the UK was the Mortgage Corporation, which was then owned by a now defunct organization called Salomon Brothers. And it was the first of its kind. It was a really very innovative, direct to the consumer, if you like, mortgage operation, although we also had brokers who passed business in. So that was interesting. I then went to work in a similar capacity for Chase Manhattan as it was then, and same thing, working and headed their mortgage operation, grew the mortgage portfolio by 300% in 18 months. So I was quite pleased with myself, but all good things come to an end. And this was on suddenly we all got hit by one of the many global recessions. And Chase decided to sell up its retail businesses across Europe and retrench back to the US. So we basically sold and packaged the business. And like all people who then have this kind of sabbatical time to think about what do I want to do next, I thought, do you know what? I think I'm going to become a consultant because I really like solving problems and I also enjoy telling other people what to do. So it seemed a natural fit. And one of my previous CEOs from when I started in retail banking had formed a software company that was matched with consulting, focusing primarily on banks. And the great thing about the software that he created was, unlike the typical operating systems that banks used at that time, this one was based around the idea of a relational database. So with one view, you could see all of the accounts and all of the circumstances around an individual or a family or a group. And at that time, it was quite revolutionary. And it's quite interesting that even today, I am banked with a major bank, but they have different systems. And I can always tell if I've got a problem with a card, they have to leave their standard retail banking system and then go look at the card system to see if there's an issue there. And I find that incredible. After 20 odd years, we still have disconnected systems, but there you go.
Banking, they are not the most revolutionary. They don't like
it. Isn't. It isn't.
Like
and you know, its issue obviously is that so many of the systems they have are legacy systems.
Yeah.
And they sticking plaster over the legacy system to try and keep them running, and then they bolt on something new, and it really doesn't quite fit. I've obviously done a lot of consulting with banks and other financial institutions since I left the industry, and I was always amazed that the issues that they had always seemed to be the same. So, but you know, I left the UK, where I'd worked pretty much Europe, got some opportunities in the Middle East, and then stayed there for really 10 years. Decided it was again time to move, time to think about the next phase of my life. What did I want to do? And I thought, maybe I don't want to be a consultant anymore. So I came to Cyprus, took my sabbatical, thought about what I wanted to do, and decided that maybe there was no escape. I needed to think about something that involved consultancy. And one day I read a headline from the UK that the government suddenly pulled support for small and medium-sized businesses. And I think the budget they'd allocated for it was somewhere in the 25 million pound range. So I thought, well, what's going to happen now? The small and medium-sized businesses that need perhaps help, support, and guidance, the government's saying, well, you're not very important, so we're going to direct our attention somewhere else. And then I kind of did some more research again, because that's what I love doing. And the UK, just like the US, more than 50% of private sector employees are in small and medium-sized businesses. So I think, hang on a minute. So we're pulling lots of resources and help from businesses that need it when they're employing around 55% of the private sector workforce. How crazy is that? Next part of the logic was, so where do these people go? How do they get good business advice? How in fact do they get consulting? And of course, there it gets very murky there, because there are a lot of consultants about, and believe me, I think consultants do generally a fantastic job. But when you're a small and medium-sized business and somebody comes along and says, okay, I can help you, but I need £500 a day, which is obviously a lot less than the McKinsey rates of many thousands. But it's all relative. The businesses that can afford to take on McKinsey, it's within their budget. But suddenly, for a small and medium-sized business, 500 a day is a lot of money. So how could we solve this conundrum? How could we provide consulting in a way that strips out a lot of the costs so it's affordable? And of course, the answer is, maybe you automate it, maybe you digitize the consulting process. So that's what we set out to do, and that was the birth of Fitbiz360, as we called it.